Coming up on Dub Zone, like a fine vine, Courtney is back to her best for Sydney FC. Sky Blue star Mackenzie Hawkesby joins us in studio to reflect on the win over Perth. Another win for Western. Could the hottest team in the league right now return to the big dance? And Rachel Lowe, an unlikely Golden Boot contender, as the victory ended 2.5-year drought against the Brisbane Roar. Hello and welcome to Dub Zone. I am Grace Gill, your host for this evening, and as always, it's a pleasure to be joined alongside me today by Pellizzeri, A-League's commentator. Tay, great to see you.
Great to see you, Grace.
And Alicia Ferguson, of course. Ish, great to have your company again.
Hello, Grace.
Great to see you. And we're thrilled to have Mackenzie Hawkesby. Macca, great to have you here, the midfield maestro, Sydney FC. Really good to have you on the panel tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good. We'll get to talking about your game yesterday in just a moment, but I want to start a little bit about your experience overseas. We know you've been a long-term Sydney FC servant, went over and had a time at Brighton Hove and Albion. Back in the country here, can you share a little bit about that journey that you've had over the last 12 months?
Yeah, for sure. I've spent the last 6 months in Brighton, and then it's been it was overall a good experience. A lot of resilience, but very happy to be home playing back at Sydney FC. But got to experience what it was like to play in the best league in the world. So overall it was good.
What was your experience though, Macca? Let's delve into it. What did you go over there? You were signed by Mel Phillips, who's recently been let go by the club. What was she looking for you in a player? And you said you didn't get too many minutes. What happened when you actually got over there?
Yeah, I think just the style of play didn't really suit the player that I was. Obviously, going over there, I knew it was going to be quite tough getting game time, but as a footballer, you need to be playing a little bit, I think. And, I just wasn't getting that, and I think I had to make a decision, and to come home, I think was the right decision, and I'm just happy to be home, to be honest.
But you were able to play and train next to a legend of the game, Vicky Losada, Spanish international, previously at Barcelona, at Arsenal. What was that like?
I mean, it was unreal. What a player she is and what a person she is. Yeah, I mean, the players I got to play against and play with, it was incredible. Just very grateful for the experiences that I took from that, playing with someone like Vicky. It was unreal, for sure.
A lot of players share information, and obviously there are lots of friendships across different teams in the A-League Women's. I mean, would your door be open to any players thinking about making that first move overseas, and just asking you about maybe some of the things they don't consider or don't think about, given you've gone and lived this experience now and decided to come home?
I mean, obviously delving into talking to the coach, getting the style of play is one thing I would delve into, and obviously just if you're ready to take the risk of moving away from home and being away from family and friends, that is one thing that is always tough, as you see a lot of the Matildas do it. It's not easy until you do it. But I guess it's up to the individual for sure.
Well, we're really thrilled to have you back in the A-League. And, of course, leaving a team that you were so familiar with in Sydney FC last year, coming back to the team, but a pretty different-look team. Of course, we've seen the likes of, Maddie Haley left during the off-season, Rachel Lowe's moved to another team, and, of course, Nat Tobin went down early in the year with a dreaded ACL injury. But what's it been like coming back into a space that is so familiar but has looked really, really different this season?
Yeah, for sure. I think, we've lost around 6 players from our grand final starting 11. So also it's different. Losing Nat Tobin, our club captain, she is the heart and soul of our team. So definitely is different. But I think the players we've signed, the players who we've kept are amazing, and we're doing really well, to be honest. I feel like I've fit in quite seamlessly, and Auntie's been excellent for me, helped me come back in. So it's been really good.
How has your role changed since you went away and come back?
Oh, I mean, I'm one of the oldest players there now, at 23, so I'm like, oh, wow.
Not 33. That's 23.
It's quite similar. Obviously, you got, 2 young ones next to me playing in midfield, but I still have a lot of the older girls next to me, and we're just, trying to steer the ship. So it's been good.
Well, it definitely doesn't look like you've missed a beat. Fitness is still ticking over really, really well. And yesterday you mentioned a good result against Perth. 3-1, you came out on top. Maddie Caspers, of course, getting on the scoreboard, as did Courtney Vine for a brace. And Quinley Kazada as well. Taya, what did you make of the performance yesterday from Sydney in particular?
Well, first half, it looked as though Sydney were going to take this game away. Maddie Caspers became the second youngest player in league history to score in 3 consecutive games. She's only 16 years old. Only one player has done it younger, and that was Mariana Tabane for the Perth Glory all the way back in 2008. So this is the first time it's happened in 15 years. So Casper's amazing to open the scoring and continue her run. And then when there was a penalty given to Sydney FC, it looked as though it was going to be how far Sydney. And you've got to give credit to Morgan Aquino, making a bit of amends for last week's slip against Adelaide, steps up and saves her second penalty kick of the season, and was able to spark a bit of a Perth revival. They grabbed the equaliser almost immediately after this amazing Aquino save. So Sydney had to reload. overcome the disappointment, and then go and win it again in the second half, and that's what they did.
Yeah, Mako, I just wanted to ask you. I think Princess Sabini playing more central through the team is been a revelation as well. And even build-up play, she's dropping off. She's switching play, points of attack as well, which was opening up Perth on that right-hand side, particularly with Courtney down that. Like, how are you finding that? Because those combination plays in there were really exceptional yesterday.
Yeah, I think Prinny's such a dynamic player. Obviously, we've seen over the last few seasons play out wide, and her, 1v1 ability is excellent. But people don't realise how good she is at hold-up play and link-up play. And as you've seen that over the past few games, the assist she's got, the way she's able to hold up the ball, we're forming connections, me and her, and obviously her and Courtney are just a lethal duo, to be honest. So yeah, she's excellent.
And it just keeps her more involved in the game as well.
Yeah, it does, and you can see the energy she has up top. I think it's been, like you said, a revelation for us. She's been doing excellent, and I'm really happy for her, and it's been really good for our team, obviously. Yeah.
Can we also just do an Indy Dos Santos appreciation post?
I second that.
Yeah, second that. That amazing ball in. I mean, when you've got someone with the pace of Courtney Vine, we talk about some of the younger players in this team, Macca. I mean, come on, that was quality. The vision, the pace of the ball, the angle of it. It must be a joy for you to see some of these young players coming through.
I mean, it's unreal. Obviously, she's a gone girl, so let's claim that firstly. But yeah, she's just come along leaps and bounds. Have you seen of last season? She's really building that form, playing out wide, and it's just so good to see. I guess players just express themselves in a way. So yeah, it's so good for her.
There's about half a generation gap between yourself and the Indy Dos Santos, her older sister Janaea, Zara Kruger, Maddie Caspers as well. This sort of cluster of talented young players. You've been a teammate of Daniela Garlich in the under-23s as well. So it's not just Sydney FC, it's quite a few teams. What are you seeing coming through the ranks of the A-League Women's now, whether they're going to be teammates of yours or opponents of yours that you're going to have to compete against into the future?
I think the technical ability of the youth coming through is amazing. I think, as you see, like players like Maddie Caspers, Indy Dos Santos, they're so good with their feet, and I think it's just huge for Australian football. As you can see, players like Garlich as well are just are excelling in the A-League, and yeah, I just think it's huge for the game and see where it can go for sure.
I just wanted to ask you, Macca, as well, because a lot of people talk about going to the WSL. But exactly what you said, the quality here in the A-League Women's, how would you compare? Where are we at with some of the younger players coming through in your experience at Brighton?
I think, yeah, for sure. There's a lot of young talent coming through. It's really, really good. Obviously, the WSL, in my opinion, is definitely the best league in the world. The top 4 teams are very, very good. There's no doubt about it. But, yeah, I think for me, coming back from the WSL to the A-League, the intensity is quite good here. I wouldn't say there's much of a drop-off at all.
Well, cooking in the capital this afternoon was bottom of the table Canberra United defeating table toppers in Melbourne City in a resounding win as well. Canberra coming up 3-1 over Melbourne City. Heyman getting on the scoreboard continued to beat her own records. Mary Stanich-Fuddy with a fine finish and Nikki Flannery as well. Taylor Otto doing a little bit of damage control, Teo, but what a result for Canberra. I
mean, you saw this coming, Grace, and maybe I should have too, because last season we had 11th placed Wellington beat first placed Sydney FC. Now we have 12th placed Canberra beating first place Melbourne City. This was a brilliant first goal from Michelle Heyman, still at the top of her game. And then Mary Stanich-Fuddy showing her technical ability with the second goal. Canberra were just rolling downhill at this point. We've got to give them praise before we delve into what went wrong for Melbourne City. I mean, this was, Canberra of old in front of the McKellar crowd, putting an opponent to the sword.
I mean, it's just like quintessential Michelle Heyman goal, that, wasn't it? Getting in behind, using her pace. This was well set up. Her experience here to play Nikki Flannery in. But that first goal, what I loved about it, when she actually came back inside, she took a little half touch just to put Bubs off a little bit in goal and passed it into the far corner. She's still going strong. What is she, great? She's still one of the fastest player in the Canberra team, and she can still score goals. I still think she's one of the best one-on-one attackers in the league.
Vital for Canberra, they moved back to within 1 point of getting off the bottom of the table with a game in hand. We've got to talk about Melbourne City. Before kick-off, they announced that they are negotiating transfers for the departure of their Canadian goalkeeper Liz Prue and also their right-wing back Caitlin Torpey. So we're not going to see those two for the rest of the season. Before we get into what it means for City, I just want to say Caitlin Torpey made 9 starts for Brisbane between 2018 and 2021 over a 3-season period before Melbourne City saw something and turned her into a first-team regular, and now she is being propelled into an international transfer, and when we find out the name of the club, we'll all be pretty impressed. So we've got to give Melbourne City a big pat on the back for the long-term vision they had for that player. But in the short term, Julia Grosso's missing on the left, Caitlin Torpey's missing on the right, and Melbourne City look like a totally different team as a result.
They do. Look, the way they play, and they want to play, you know, a very attacking style of football. They're always going to outpass teams. The amount of possession that they had over Canberra, of course, they're always going to do that. They're just missing that final quality in the final third, and they're getting a bit susceptible at the back. Macca, we were talking about it before. They definitely keep a distinct style of play, and unfortunately, when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And Canberra really exploited that today.
Yeah, definitely. I think Melbourne City have a lot of quality, but I think, yeah, you know, Canberra with Michelle Hammond up top and Vesna running off them, yeah, they're lethal up top, and as you can see, they were a bit exposed today. So, yeah, definitely good job to Canberra for sure.
It doesn't get any easier for Melbourne City because they've got your team coming up this week, and you are set on revenge, of course, because it was 3-0 down at half-time last time you played them. There was the lightning delay either side of Sydney's goals and ended up going down 3-2. It's a very different Melbourne City team to the one you played, but it's also just as different a Sydney FC team, because you were quick to remind us that you weren't playing and Courtney Vine didn't play either. So how eager are you to get this game, which is, you know, worthy of a semi-final or a grand final, underway next week?
Oh, yeah, obviously I was quick to remind you on that. Yeah, no, it is huge. Yeah, definitely a top-of-the-table clash. I mean, you can't underestimate City. They're a quality team and they're first for a reason. But, yeah, obviously with Court coming back in, haven't played them and obviously I wasn't there. Yeah, it's going to be huge. I can't wait for it. I think it's a massive game for us, obviously. Want to be at the top of the table at the end. So, yeah, it's going to be good.
Well, a little earlier in the afternoon yesterday, Western United defeated the Central Coast Mariners, and we know this was Kat Smith up against Emily Husband, two female coaches in the league. A great battle, but it was Western United who got the result in the end. A goal to Jacqueline Savicki and Hannah Keane, who's back in some really good form, Teo, and Rolla Badawia, who's having a great season for Central Coast Mariners. Yeah,
and I found the early exchange of goals quite interesting because this has happened in a couple of Mariners games so far this season. You think of Unite Round when this something similar happened against the Wellington Phoenix, and then the Mariners went on to win. But on this occasion, it was Western United who got their noses in front, and then I wouldn't say they went defensive. It's just that Central Coast really maybe lacked a bit of creativity, and yet there was one very important catalyst who came off the bench in the second half and was nearly able to turn the game back in their favour, and maybe gave us an insight into what we can expect for the rest. Great goal celebration by Rolla Badawia there with the boot, by the way. But yeah, we got an insight into what the Mariners are really going to need going into the remainder of the season if they want to hold on to this spot in the top six, and that was Kaya Simon increasing her minutes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, defensively, Emily Husband's definitely got them organised, but they need something additional, don't they? And it's great to see Kaya back. She had a good couple of chances there. I think on the Western United side, though, I think it's crucial. For me, it's always the spine of a team. When you've got such a solid spine of the team, and what they've got a very good goalkeeper in Hilary Bill. They've got Grace Meyer at the back, hugely experienced. They've got Taranto in midfield. Then they've got Chloe Lagazo and Hannah Keane. And then building other players who are having a very good season around it. They're tough to beat. Macca, you were saying, like, how do you find playing against Western United? Yeah,
I think when we played them this season, they were definitely tough to beat. Just the experience they have quality all over the pitch. Obviously, with Hannah Keane now in goal-scoring form, yeah, they're getting into good form, and I think, yeah, they're going to be up there at the end of the season. So, yeah, they're very tough.
Well, we know Kaya Simon, you just mentioned there, Teo. She's had a couple of appearances off the bench. One, she came off and on in the 70th minute, and then another yesterday in the 83rd minute. So she's building back her minute. She's been out of the game for a long time. This is going to have to be really carefully managed for Emily Husband and the Central Coast Mariners. But Teo, I'll come to you on this one. How far off do we think we're seeing a full 90 minutes from Kaya Simon?
Look, it's a good question because Ergamal did get the assist and Rolla Badawia scored the goal yesterday. So Central Coast Mariners, they would have wanted more than what they got out of their attackers, but these are good signs. This is Kaya Simon getting into goal-scoring positions, showing that she can still be a threat, and that depth in attack. I mean, the Mariners youngsters, some of them in their first A-League women's season, might need a bit of management just to get to the finals and make sure they peak at finals time if the Mariners do qualify for the top six. So having another striker in the rotation could be invaluable.
Yeah, a striker who is a known goal scorer and a very, very experienced player. You know, obviously it's the managing the load coming back when she's been out for 480 days, I think it was, before she came back and played that game. It takes a while to get you back up and build up back to that and having little setbacks along the way. So I think that's first and foremost, but it's been really promising, what we have seen. It's flashes of the Kaya Simon that we know.
Well, also, Melbourne Victory ending their bogey run yesterday against Brisbane Roar. And it was three capped Matildas who, in fact, got on the score sheet yesterday afternoon. Tamiki Yalla, who's growing into the season really well, Emma Checker and Rachel Lowe too. And what a result that is for Melbourne Victory. 2.5 years, Teo, since they've beaten Brisbane in Brisbane. What a good one to get off their back.
Yeah, 777 days, Grace. I'm not sure why that tongue twister set you running. But look, Brisbane will be furious because they lost this game to 2 goals at set pieces. One was from a corner, one was from a penalty. And Victory did not create a huge amount in open play in this game. I mean, Melbourne Victory jump up to 4th as a result of getting the 3 points here. I don't think they were brilliant. They just did enough. And in a long season, maybe that's all they need to do. As you mentioned, Grace, their big names were the ones that stepped up. They were able to counter Tamiki Yallop, who we know has been building her form and starting to influence games more and more. And ultimately, Mackenzie probably would have loved to have rounded the keeper and finished here, but, you know, you can't argue about the penalty decision.
She nearly got upended, didn't she?
Rachel Lowe, I think Victory defended very soundly to see out this 2-1 win. It's not like it was red alert with Brisbane laying siege to their goal as they closed out the 3 points.
Macca, you played with Rachel. There was a badge hitting into tapping incident, wasn't there, last time you played? But just tell us about her. Like, she's a goal scorer. She plays in midfield. She's up there as a number 9. She's having a great season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy for Rach. I love her so much. Yeah, I think, you know, she's such a dynamic player, quite a technician, but as you can see, yeah, she can score goals. That's the truth. So, yeah, I'm doing really well. Not sure about the badge thing, but we'll move on. Nah, she's, yeah, just really happy for her that she's doing well, and, yeah, just putting goals away for Victory, so it's good to see.
Well, Lydia Williams, we've seen in recent days, has undergone surgery, or recent weeks has undergone surgery, and another former teammate of yours in Courtney Newbon, we know she had a couple of games at the start of season, Central Coast, did really well, has made the move down to Melbourne, uprooted her life and moved down there. What can you say about her? Because to my eyes, she has been excellent for the Victory as well. I
mean, Courtney Newbon for me is just such an underrated keeper. She's been around for a long time, and I'm so happy to see her do so well. As you can see for Victory, when we played them last week, she may have pulled off some excellent saves, just like that one there. And yeah, she's incredible, and I think that she's earned the right to start at Victory. That's for sure.
Well, some costly mistakes it was from the Western Sydney Wanderers, who gave up the ball on a couple of occasions, and just their 3rd win this season for Adelaide United, Teo. Adelaide finishing 2-1 winners over the Wanderers at home. What a result for Adrian Stenter's side.
Not just that, they've now beaten Wanderers home and away without conceding a goal in open play, in spite of giving up so many chances across those 2 games. So a bit of luck, but also a lot of character showed from Adelaide here. Ish, you were on commentary for the game. Before we get your thoughts on why it played out the way it did, I just want to say fantastic for Chrissy Panagaris to score the match winner. 25 goals in the South Australian League and Cup over winter. A homegrown hero in every sense of the word, and that sort of tangible connection. What it meant to her to score that match-winning goal, that is someone who's grown up supporting Adelaide United her whole life and then gets to score the match-winning goal on Hindmarsh Stadium. That is one of the best moments of the A-League women's season. But that's the emotional and the sentimental side. Let's talk about tactically. Why did Adelaide get this right? And why did Wanderers let it slip against Adelaide for the 2nd time this season?
I think Adelaide executed their game plan very well. I think any time that Wanderers had any of the build-up play and some structured play, then they were getting players behind the ball. Not necessarily parking the bus, but they were staying really nice and compact. You could hear Adrian Stenter yelling out a lot, you know, get 2 players out in wide areas, closing down. And basically they were just keeping Wanderers playing in front of them, which was making it difficult. You know, there wasn't that space in behind that the Wanderers like. I think Emily Hodgson had an exceptional game, played really well. But Wanderers did have chances, and I think, you know, shots over the bar, shots straight to the keeper, not really testing the goalkeeper. I think they'd be a little bit disappointed about. Also, the conditions were really, really warm, and there was 2 drink breaks in either half, and I just feel it's tough. It really stifles momentum either way. Like, it went from, you know, it was almost, yeah, exactly, in all those different thirds or whatever it was, but Adelaide did. They were well organised and they executed a game plan. I think Sasaki did really well. They also were really composed, playing it out from the back. Sasaki as that pivot, got the ball a couple of times, was switching it out the other way, and they were playing out of the Wanderers' pressure. They did really well.
They are cruelled by the international call-ups because their match against Wellington next weekend is now postponed due to the number of Wellington players away on international duty. So instead of asking, are Adelaide back, unfortunately, they have to wait an extra weekend to play their next game. But yeah, they're 7 points out of the top 6. They have resurrected their season, and after that 5-0 loss at home against Melbourne City, they have given themselves something to fight for, and that is really admirable from them.
Well, talking of fighting for Western Sydney Wanderers, they have had a good season too, and they're always a really fiery team for your side to come up against, Macca. What do you make of those derbies? You play them in a couple of weeks' time, and how important are those games to your club?
They're huge. I mean, playing Wanderers for me is probably the best game of the season, especially a derby at CommBank. Yeah, it's going to be huge. I can't wait for it. Obviously, Wanderers are having quite a good season. But yeah, I'm so fired up for it, to be honest.
Well, it's great to hear. Well, there was another 5 goals scored across one of the games this afternoon. Newcastle finished 3 over Wellington 2. Karapetis, Copus Brown, Bolden on the score sheet for Newcastle, as was Speckmeyer and Cox for Wellington. Teo, Phoenix away from home, they haven't been their best. 7
games in a row outside New Zealand, they haven't been able to get a win, and yet they led in this one, and that hasn't been uncharacteristic of some of their away games. But I think Newcastle, Serena Bolden, the will to win and the selfless nature of how she plays. We saw earlier in the season celebrating winning a penalty. Today, most strikers would try to claim a goal. If they're anywhere near it, even slightly in the vicinity, Serena Bolden was quick to turn around and give credit to Zoe Karapetis, who put in the long ball and will ultimately get credited with the goal there. Libby Copus-Brown, great strike from distance.
What a strike. What a strike.
That turned the game on its head. And then as far as Wellington are concerned, yes, they showed some fight, but ultimately they leave defeated again and they slip now 2 points out of the top 6. But again, they don't have a game next weekend. And then the game after against Western United, they'll have all their New Zealanders away on international duty. So they're in a spot of bother right now. The quality of goals in this game, Ish, I can see the look on your face.
I'm like trying to jump in. Sorry, Teo. I'm like, just Serena, the quality of goals in this game are exceptional. Serena Bolden, we were talking before about, and Macca, you said it, fitting into a team, fitting into a system, whether you do or not. She's slotted in so well. She's had the experience of a World Cup. She's slotted in so well to Newcastle, and she just looks like she's enjoying her football and she's really driving the team on. How do you find it when you come up against her, to play against her?
I think, honestly, she's exceptional. I think when we played her, the intensity she plays at is through the roof, and I think she brings everyone around her the level up, to be honest. And I don't know what that is, whether it's from the World Cup, but she has an eye for goals. She's scoring goals, and she's just, to me, she's on another level. And she's unreal to play against. Obviously, not playing against her is great, but she's doing really well, so it's good to see.
And even though, Newcastle had the influence of Emily Van Egmond having that, winning mentality, and now Serena Bolden as well. You can definitely see the shift in the mindset with Newcastle, and some fantastic goals to boot.
Indeed.
Wellington, as I said, they're going to be missing their New Zealand players for the game week after next against Western United. Nothing they can do about moving that fixture. So, I don't know, maybe a free hit is what they need and no expectation rather than the burden of trying to break this winless streak away from home.
Well, it's been a really entertaining round nonetheless. Some really good goals, some really good quality goals, as we just saw there as well. As we have a look at the ladder after round 15, it's still Melbourne City sitting pretty at the top, 3 points adrift from Western United, and that loss today to Canberra, I can see Mackenzie Hawkesby looking on longingly at that ladder, has helped her Sydney FC side. But Teo, as things start to shape out, this time a couple of years ago, the season's done and dusted. We're in finals. Most teams are putting their boots away up until NPL. We've still got so many games to go. What do you make of the ladder at this point in time?
Well, I think it's important to remember that first and second get elimination final weekend off. It's 3v6, 4v5, losers go out, and then we go into 2-legged semi-finals. That bye for the top 2 teams. Melbourne City, I think that weren't they 8 points clear on a dub zone not too long ago, and now they could potentially be off the top of the ladder by next weekend. They could be third if results go against them over the next 2 weekends, and then all of a sudden a nice big safety net and the trophy will be off the table, and then they might be looking at sudden death elimination final. So the length of the season has allowed for a big swing in the pattern of what we're seeing.
Absolutely, and now you're getting to this point of the season where, and I said this in the Adelaide Wanderers game, where you know how those teams play. Yeah. So now you've got to come up with something different. And Mackenzie, how do you feel? How much better is it playing a full home and away season?
Oh my God, it is so good. To be honest, we look at it now. There's still 7-8 games around regular season to go, and like I said, when I first played in the A-League, there was only 13 rounds. So yeah, it's just so good to momentum shifts. I think in a full home and away season. So to be honest, I think it's good for every team.
Well, mathematically, no one is eliminated yet, so there's still a lot to play for, which is really exciting. And we know in the next sort of 7 days or so, the Matilda squad is going to be announced for the upcoming qualifiers against Uzbekistan on the 24th and 28th of February. And of course, we've got a few Matildas in the squad thereabouts. Of course, Courtney Vine, your teammate at Sydney FC, Alex Chidiac at Victory, Tamika Yallop. There's plenty. I could keep listing them. But to the panel, and Ish, I'll start with you. What are we expecting? Of course, Sam Kerr is out. We know that. Does someone come in to try and replace the void she leaves? Are we going to see a left field inclusion in this squad that we understand is still going to be a 23-player squad for this friendly, this qualifying window against Uzbekistan?
Yeah, I think, you know, Sam Kerr's hard to replace, and I don't think we actually need to necessarily replace her. We proved that at the World Cup, that we have an amazing plethora of attacking players in this Australian team now. I think Amy Sayer has been now brought into the squad. She was a train-on member during the World Cup, and so I would be very surprised if she wasn't included. But the biggest thing is we're going from a normal 23-player squad for these, and the key thing is we need to qualify. That's the first and foremost for the Olympics. But then it cuts down to 18 players, 2 goalkeepers, that's 16 outfield players. That's a lot of World Cup players who are potentially not going to feature in the Olympics.
What about you, Macca? Any, besides, you're going to say Courtney Vine, of course, your teammate, but anyone stood out to you that you think deserves an opportunity in this window?
I think, to be honest, it is a tough squad to break into. I think the loss of Sam is huge, but I think they have a lot of quality. Like you said, in the front third, I think that you can put anyone 9, you can put Mary there, Caitlin there, Court there. So I think, yeah, it is a tough squad to break into. I think, yeah, it's going to be difficult with an 18-man squad. Like you said, there's 4 to be cut from the World Cup squad, which that squad was incredible.
Brutal.
So
it's brutal,
it's
isn't
tough,
it?
yeah.
It's really, it's so brutal. The other thing, and I know I've said this previously on Dub Zone, is we're looking at potentially the last major tournament, definitely the last Olympics, for some of our amazing stalwarts of the Matildas, and whether there's sentiment or not, you know, you don't really get too much sentiment in an 18-player squad, but there's going to be some big decisions, and, you know, they've still got the rest of a very long season. They play a lot of games. A lot of our players over in Europe are in Champions League, they're in FA Cups, they're in Continental Cups, they're in the WSL. There's a lot of games between now and that squad being announced for the Olympics.
And probably just wear the flag, the young Matildas, whose tournament to qualify for the Under-20 World Cup does not take place in an international window. Players will actually miss potentially around 17, 18 and 19. We'll see that squad named in the near future too. We'll discuss it on a future Dub Zone because it's actually going to have a practical impact on the teams that get picked each week in the A-League Women's.
Well, Teo, we're going to stick with you. Teo's top tip. Last week, you guessed that Courtney Vine was going to get on the score sheet. Sorry, you tipped correctly.
I envisaged that Courtney Vine, not just 1 but 2. So Perth still her favourite opponent whenever she sees them. But Perth, I'm going to make it up to you for my top tip this week. Perth are in need of a get-right game. They've slipped all the way down to 5th. They haven't actually won this calendar year. Their last win was against Central Coast on New Year's Eve. They've got Canberra at home, and I was feeling a lot more confident about this prediction before Canberra went and beat top-of-the-ladder Melbourne City today. But you know what? I stick to my guns in this segment, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. Perth, your get-right game is coming up at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. Perth to beat Canberra. That's my top tip.
Well, we heard it here first.
Which doesn't happen often.
It's been another fantastic week of A-League action. Macca, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Teo, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Grace.
Ish, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you next week on Dub Zone.